Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Big T Anderson, and today we're doing Elsa Files. This is an ongoing project by Cotto. This is from the Frozen fandom. This is obviously a fan fiction. You're on fan fiction reading, so just wanted to make that absolutely stunningly clear. Here are the rules. Cotto wrote it. I'm just putting it to audio, so if you like the story, if you like where it's going, if you want to see more of it, hit the links, go that way. Leave your reviews, leave the good terms, leave anything that you think will be either good to hear because as a writer, if you don't get those good things, honestly, you don't know why you're writing some days. I've been there. So give the good word. I like this. It's a different angle on a character, and I think you guys will enjoy it, obviously. So let's begin. This is Elsa Files. Oh, and by the way, I'm only doing one chapter, so if you want more, you're gonna have to go and poke the author, say, hey, I want to know more. I want more. M-O-R, more. Okay. Elsa Files. Let's begin. Elsa is a brilliant young but troubled teenage girl, roughly aged 16, whose parents are pretty distraught over her situation. She shows signs of a very high-level intellect and a taste for athletic activities. In addition to intellectual athleticism as well, such as a mixture of poetry and scholarly work, she's profoundly industrious, to put it mildly. I suspect that her mind operates on a level close to that of a genius, so her mental functions are pretty secure. Problem is, she's terrified of things freezing. Not exactly beneficial for someone who lives near the Arctic Circle, in the area known as the Land of the Midnight Sun. She's also very sweet and friendly in her temperament, but how this was discovered by me was most interesting. One day, while meeting with her and her parents, the window pane began to freeze. She panicked and was reduced into sobbing in the corner, as an emotional wreck, repeating over and over, "I'm sorry, Anna," quietly. It was that clued me into what's going on in her head. She feels responsible for it freezing, and the ice on the window pane is a reminder of what happened to her kid sister. This gave me an idea on how to help her, but I need to get her some aid for her pastor to get this done, as it deals with morals, hence it deals with religion. When I asked who Anna is, I learned that's the name of her little sister. Did she hurt her somehow? I asked. Her daddy then told me that what happened was an accident, but it nearly cost Anna her life. Then it dawned on me. Elsa was suffering from her conscience, tormenting her about having hurt her little sister like that. This, combined from her reaction of terror, told me to a T that this teenager was suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, about nearly causing the death of her sibling. Needless to say, her PTSD is intertwined with religion in some ways, so to unravel it, it requires involvement of a religious expert in her belief system to speak the language, as it were. This is why I strongly recommend that her pastor be involved in treating this problem for her. Best recourse I suggest for treatment: both keep up these meetings and involve her pastor. As the conscience is involved, it touches on religion, so getting an expert in that field would help this young lady. Oh, and lest I forget, she's of the local religious affiliation, one of the Protestant sects, as it turns out, Lutheran, as I learned later on. Her devotion level is roughly in the middle of the spectrum, but it is there. As far as her personality goes, she's a very loving young teen girl, quiet in temperament, gentle, and both an intellectual and an athlete who likes to ice skate when able. For a child who was born in the winter, having PTSD involved in cold temperatures is indeed emotionally traumatic, if you ask me. This alone shows a strong mind lies behind her eyes, and a very inquisitive one as well. That's to her credit. She has a hobby of sculpting snow and ice, so she's a budding artist, which can also be rather playful at times. But when her so-called glitch acts up, all sorts of problems come up as well, and the result is that of a vicious cycle, feeding on itself, that results in her having serious emotional problems. As it is, I don't see a way out of this until she talks this over with her pastor. Due to this being involved in religion, so I recommend that her family take these matters over with their pastor to get their elder daughter some additional aid. Her hobby should help her keep a healthy mind too, I've observed. Initially, her dad was disappointed, but I reassured him that you address the problem by using the skills of the expert in that field. I can address the PTSD through counseling, not a problem. But the root cause is her conscience is hurting her due to what happened between the daughters. That hurt her, so till that's dealt with, any treatment from me will only be bandaging a cut without cleaning it. It'll get worse in the end. That is my recommendation, at least. You get her to talk to your pastor about this. Even though we differ in faith, he'll likely point out to her the passages to read that'll help her out with her problems, if nothing else. He was about to respond when I raised my hand. As the professionals you contacted, let me tell you, our faiths do not have the same, a good term is rituals, but since this has to do with behavior and morals, Consulting with her pastor would help her out immeasurably. Sure enough, that won him over. I do not, under any circumstance, recommend that Elsa damage or decrease her intensity of her conscience. Not one bit. Quite the contrary, I recommend that she seek to get it trained. I know that her parents had tried to keep quiet who she is and her place in society. What that is, but it was impossible with her father's face on a number of local coins in the realm. So I knew immediately who she is. To me, however, and I made clear to them immediately upon agreeing to help, all she is yet another patient. Same rights to secrecy, security, privacy. Same rights as any other patient I would deal with, no more, no less than any of them too. Elsa is a very hard-working young maiden, but didn't appear to have any romantic interest at the time of this meeting when I interviewed her. She's a quiet young woman who keeps to herself for the most part. In a lot of other ways, she's your ordinary teen girl. I have a lot of hope for her future. Suggested treatments. As far as her stability goes regarding emotions, I recommend to both her and her parents that she and they make certain to discuss this with the pastor, the bishop of her home parish namely, but if he agrees with the theology of this, she should especially focus on her interrelationship with Christ Jesus as his adopted stepsister. I know this has a calming effect on the perpetually nervous. It's been documented that persons who have a strong religious affiliation tend to be a lot more emotionally secure. So what I recommend is that they not only involve religious elements into the treatment, works on anyone willing to take the treatment, by the way, same with any treatment, if you're willing to take your medicine, unless the medicine is faulty somehow, say chemically for one, the treatment will make you better, barring, of course, if you're allergic to the medicine administered or if it doesn't affect the area where the problem is. But thinking about the teachings in one's religion rarely is harmful to the person, especially if the teachings are accurate. There was some fear on that part, a fear of going astray, but I suggested that in the Bible it states that even the Lord's Prayer says that. In a nutshell, that God adopted us humans, so I was like, so are you questioning the validity of the Lord's Prayer? But not directly. It still worked though. Her parents promised to make sure to bring the matter before their pastor. If nothing else, it helped their teen daughter to stabilize. Elsa is already a very loving young woman in her personality. It'd be no surprise if she wanted to stabilize for her family's sake. I know this is no quick fix. There is no such thing in terms of either psychology, psychiatry, nor in terms of theology, or anything else involving human behavior, but why not involve religious faith in treatment? At the very least, it'll bring an additional strength into the matter, and help to unite the person with reality, which is the core goal in getting someone mentally healthy. As for Elsa, she's most definitely eager to stay united to reality, so there's no desire in her to divorce herself from what's real, and into a state of insanity thereby, since truth by definition is the conformity of the intellect to reality, and falsity is the lack of conformity, even the attempt to conform being to the intellect, getting things backwards, eh? I plan to bring this up with her. She's a bright gal and would appreciate this matter, as well as what truth is in terms of a philosophical definition. In fact, protecting sanity can be seen by the person as protecting their very soul. I recommend meeting every few months at the very least, at least to maintain her stability and ability to do her work, particularly her schoolwork, but also her studying for her job. I know how hard it is for her family to maintain secrecy, but I support their concern for their child who's suffering like she is. And since this involves something in her conscience and past behavior, the religion is a potent means of administering a cure. One thing to suggest is that since the Lord's Prayer begins with the words, Our Father, it's a claim to being the teacher of that prayer's siblings by sheer logic. And logic's another weapon that is available to those who serve the truth, and dare seek to adhere to it as well. It should work out well, since her terror seems to stem from the memory of having hurt one of her relatives in an accident. She's likely to be comforted by knowing that she's got a safety net, and that can be brought up later on if need be. To be continued. I kind of like this. This is a different way to write a story. It's more, obviously notes of a psychological, of a breakdown mentally, but that's kind of cool, especially when you bring up characters who, people love. Frozen was definitely a beloved film. Obviously, Elsa, a beloved character. So I thought this was well done. If you like it, hit the links down below. Give the author the good word, and I'll see y'all next time. Well, here y'all. You guys know what I mean. Ta-ta.